Marcus Johnson stood outside the restaurant and looked down at his hand.
And this wine.
$5. That was all he had. The cold wind moved through the streets of downtown Atlanta. Cars passed by. People laughed as they walked inside warm buildings. The world looked busy and bright. But Marcus felt small. He checked his phone again. 7:02 p.m. Blind date. He thought about leaving. He almost turned around. $5 was not enough for anything in that place. Not even a full meal. 3 weeks ago, Marcus had a steady job. He worked at a warehouse. He never complained. He showed up early. He stayed late. But when the company cut workers, his name was on the list. Nothing personal, they said. It felt personal. Since that day, Marcus had been searching for work, sending resumes, making calls, hearing the same words again and again. We'll let you know. They never did. Tonight was supposed to be different. His friends signed him up for a blind date. You need to get out, his friends said. Good things happen when you show up. Marcus wanted to believe that. He looked at the restaurant again. It was not cheap. The glass windows showed people eating steak, pasta, and seafood. Soft music played inside. The lights were warm and golden. He took a deep breath. Just go in, he told himself. He opened the door. The smell of fresh food filled the air. For a second, he felt out of place. His jacket was old. His shoes had small cracks near the sides. A hostess smiled. Reservation? Yes, Marcus said softly. Blind date. Table for two. Name is Marcus. She looked at her screen and nodded. She's already here. Marcus followed her. At a small table, near the window, sat a woman in a red dress. Her hair was neat. Her nails were perfect. She looked confident, strong, successful. When she saw him, she smiled politely. Marcus. Yes, he said. They shook hands and sat down. Her name was Tiffany. The first few minutes were normal. She talked about her job and marketing. She talked about traveling, about new restaurants she liked. Marcus listened. He smiled. He answered when she asked questions, but he did not order food. When the waiter came, Tiffany ordered salmon and a glass of wine. And for you, sir? The waiter asked. Marcus paused. Just water, he said. Tiffany looked at him for a second. Are you sure? Yes. I'm not very hungry. That was not true. He was very hungry. At the next table, a woman in a dark blue suit was having dinner alone. She looked calm, focused. She did not speak much, but her eyes moved quietly around the room. She noticed Marcus. She noticed the way he folded his hands. She noticed the way he smiled, even when he looked tired. The dinner continued. Tiffany asked about his job. Marcus told the truth. I was laid off recently. I'm looking for work. Her smile faded a little. Oh, she said. What did you do? He explained. She nodded, but her energy changed. Her answers became shorter. Her eyes checked her phone more often. Marcus felt it. He knew that look. It was the look people gave when they decided you were not enough. Still, he stayed calm. He asked about her goals, her dreams. He listened. At the other table, the woman in the blue suit continued to watch. She heard small parts of the conversation. She heard the words laid off. She heard the silence after. Then the waiter came back with the bill. He placed it gently on the table. Tiffany did not reach for it. She looked at Marcus. Marcus picked it up slowly. $87. His heart dropped. He had $5. Only $5. The room felt smaller. The noise became louder in his ears. He could feel eyes on him. He swallowed hard. Tiffany leaned back in her chair. I thought you invited me, she said quietly. Marcus opened his mouth to speak. But before he could say a word, a calm voice came from the next table. Excuse me. Both of them turned. The woman in the blue suit was standing now, and she was looking directly at Marcus. What she said next would change everything. The restaurant became very quiet. The woman in the blue suit stood beside their table. She looked calm, but her eyes were sharp and strong. Excuse me, she said again, her voice steady. May I say something? Tiffany looked confused. Marcus looked even more confused. The woman turned to the waiter first. Please add their bill to mine. The waiter nodded slowly, surprised. Marcus quickly shook his head. No, ma'am. That's not necessary. But the woman looked at him kindly. It is not charity, she said softly. It is respect. Tiffany crossed her arms. We don't need help, she said, though she made no move to pay. The woman in the suit looked at her calmly. Maybe not, she replied. But sometimes people need grace. Marcus felt heat rise in his face. He hated this feeling. He hated being the center of attention. He hated that everyone in the room could see his struggle. I invited her, Marcus said quietly. I should handle it. The woman studied him for a second. She saw the pride in his voice. She saw the shame in his eyes. Then she said something that made the entire room freeze. Did you know, she began, that some of the richest people in this city once had nothing in their pockets? No one spoke. She continued, and some people with full plates tonight have empty hearts. Tiffany's face turned red. Are you saying something about me? The woman did not raise her voice. I'm saying that a man is more than his wallet. Marcus felt something change inside him. Not anger, not sadness, strength. The waiter returned and quietly took the bill away. But the moment was not over. The woman pulled out a chair and sat down at their table without asking. My name is Angela Carter, she said calmly. Tiffany's eyes widened. She knew that name. Everyone in Atlanta knew that name. Angela Carter was the founder and CEO of a fast-growing tech company. She was known for building her business from nothing while raising a child alone. Marcus did not know who she was. He only saw a woman who spoke with confidence. Angela looked at Marcus. Why did you come tonight? The question felt heavy. Marcus could have lied. He could have made excuses. But he didn't. Because I promised myself I wouldn't stop living, he said simply. Losing a job hurt. But I didn't want to lose myself too. The words were not fancy. They were not perfect. But they were honest. Angela nodded slowly. Tiffany looked uncomfortable now. She grabbed her purse. I think I should go, Tiffany said quickly. Angela looked at her. That might be wise. Tiffany stood up fast. She did not look at Marcus when she walked away. Marcus watched her leave. He did not feel angry. He felt tired. The restaurant slowly returned to normal. People began talking again. Music filled the room. Angela stayed seated. You handled that well, she said. I didn't handle it, Marcus replied. You did. Angela smiled slightly. No, I only paid a bill. You showed character. Marcus looked down at the table. It's embarrassing, he admitted. Not having enough. Feeling judged. Angela leaned back in her chair. Do you think I never felt that? She asked. Marcus looked at her. She continued. When I started my company, I had less than you. I had a child to feed and an idea no one believed in. Investors laughed at me. She paused. But I kept showing up. Those words hit Marcus deeply. Angela studied his face again. What did you do at your job? She asked. I worked in logistics, Marcus answered. Inventory systems. Shipping problems. I always thought there was a better way to manage small warehouse data. But no one cared. Angela's eyes changed slightly. A better way how? She asked. Marcus blinked. No one had ever asked him that before. He began explaining his idea. Simple, clear, not polished, but real. Angela listened carefully. The more he spoke, the more serious she became. When he finished, there was a long silence. Then Angela said something that made Marcus forget about the $5 in his pocket. Come to my office on Monday, she said. Let's see if your idea deserves a real chance. Marcus stared at her. He thought she was joking. She was not smiling. And for the first time that night, hope did not feel broken. It felt possible. Marcus did not sleep that night. He lay in his small apartment, staring at the ceiling. The room was quiet except for the sound of an old fan turning slowly above him. Come to my office on Monday. Angela Carter's words kept playing in his mind. He had searched her name after leaving the restaurant. What he saw shocked him. News interviews, magazine covers, awards, settle, millionaire, powerful, and she wanted to hear his idea. Marcus almost convinced himself it was a mistake. Maybe she was just being kind. Maybe she would forget by Monday. But when Monday morning came, his phone buzzed. A message. This is Angela's assistant. We are expecting you at 10 a.m. 18th floor. It was real. Marcus looked at his closet. He only owned one button-down shirt. It was simple but clean. He ironed it carefully. He polished his old shoes as best as he could. When he reached the building, he stopped for a moment. The glass tower stood tall against the sky. People in suits walked in and out with confidence. Expensive cars lined the street. Marcus took a deep breath and stepped inside. The lobby was huge. Bright lights, marble floors, a large screen showing the company logo. He felt eyes on him again. The security guard asked for his name. When Marcus said it, the guard checked a list and nodded. "They're expecting you." Those words felt strange. Upstairs, the elevator doors opened to a quiet hallway. Angela's assistant greeted him with a polite smile. "She'll see you now." Marcus entered a large office with wide windows. The city stretched far below. Angela stood near her desk, looking out at the view. She turned slowly. "You came," she said. "I said I would," Marcus replied. She smiled slightly. "Good." Angela gestured for him to sit. "No small talk," she said calmly. "Tell me your idea again. But this time, imagine I am your investor." Marcus felt nervous. His hands were cold. But then he remembered the restaurant, the bill, the embarrassment. He had survived that. He could survive this. He began speaking. He explained how small warehouses waste money because they use old tracking systems. He talked about how small businesses struggle because they cannot afford big software. He described a simple system that could run on basic computers and help local companies save thousands. Angela did not interrupt. She asked short, sharp questions. How would you price it? How would you scale it? What problem are you solving that no one else is? Marcus answered honestly. Sometimes he paused. Sometimes he admitted he did not know. But he never pretended. After almost an hour, Angela leaned back in her chair. "You are not polished," she said. Marcus nodded. "I know. You are not trained in business school. No. You do not have investors waiting. No." Silence filled the room. Then Angela said something that made his heart beat faster. "But you understand the problem better than most people in this building." Marcus blinked. She continued, "Because you lived it." Angela stood up and walked to the window. "When I started," she said quietly, "no one saw value in me. They only saw risk. But one person took a chance." She turned back to him. "I believe in taking chances on people who have character." Marcus swallowed hard. "I'm not offering you money today," she said clearly. "I'm offering you a test. A test. You will come here every day this week," she explained. "You will work with my tech team. You will show them your system. If they believe it works, we move forward." Marcus felt both fear and excitement. "And if they don't," he asked. "Then you walk away with experience," Angela replied. "But you will not walk away with regret." Marcus thought about the night at the restaurant. $5. Humiliation. A stranger standing up for him. Now he was here. "I accept," he said firmly. Angela extended her hand. This time, when they shook hands, it felt different. Not like pity, not like charity, like opportunity. As Marcus left the office, he did not feel like the man with $5 anymore. He felt like a man standing at the edge of something bigger. But he did not know yet that someone inside that building was already questioning Angela's decision. And not everyone was happy that a man like Marcus had just been given a chance. The next morning, Marcus arrived early. Too early. The office was still quiet when he stepped off the elevator. Cleaning staff moved silently through the halls. The city outside was just waking up. Marcus sat in the waiting area, holding his old laptop tightly. He felt the pressure now. This was not dinner. This was not just a conversation. This was his only real shot. At exactly 9 a.m., Angela's assistant led him into a large conference room. A long glass table stood in the center. Screens covered one wall. On the table were notebooks, tablets, and fresh coffee. 3 people were already sitting there. 2 men, 1 woman, all dressed sharp, all serious. Angela entered last. "Good morning," she said. "This is Marcus." The 3 employees nodded politely, but their eyes said something else. "Doubt," Angela continued. "Marcus has an inventory management concept focused on small warehouse efficiency. I want you to review it this week." One of the men, David, adjusted his glasses. "With respect, we already have internal projects." Angela's voice stayed calm. "Now you have one more." She looked at Marcus. "You may begin." Marcus stood up slowly. His hands felt heavy, but his voice was steady. He connected his laptop to the screen. The first slide appeared. It was simple. No fancy design. Just clear words. Small warehouses lose up to 20% profit due to poor tracking systems. David raised an eyebrow. Marcus continued. He showed real examples from his old job. He explained how shipments were delayed because data was entered late. He showed how small business owners often used paper or outdated software. He did not speak like a businessman. He spoke like someone who had lived the problem. The woman at the table, Rachel, leaned forward slightly. She started asking questions. How was your system different from current low-cost software? Marcus answered, most low-cost systems still require training. Mine is simple. 3 main screens. Easy input. No complex setup. He showed a demo version he had built late at night months ago. It was not perfect, but it worked. For a moment, the room was quiet. Then David spoke again. This is basic. Big companies won't use it. Marcus nodded. It's not for big companies. That answer made Rachel look up. It's for small businesses that big companies ignore, Marcus said clearly. The ones that can't afford you. The words stayed in the air. Angela watched carefully, but said nothing. Another man, Thomas, leaned back in his chair. Even if it works, how do you sell it? Who are you? Marcus paused. I'm someone they trust, he said. David gave a small laugh. Trust doesn't scale. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest, but he stayed calm. Trust builds loyalty, he replied, and loyalty builds growth. Angela's eyes showed approval, but her face stayed neutral. The meeting lasted 2 hours. By the end, the employees were no longer bored. They were thinking. After the meeting, Angela asked Marcus to stay. When the others left, she closed the door. You handle that well, she said. They don't believe in me, Marcus replied honestly. Angela crossed her arms. They don't need to believe in you yet, she said. They need to believe in the numbers. She walked to the screen and pointed at his demo. Your idea is strong, but needs structure. You think like a worker. Now you must think like a founder. Marcus listened carefully. Starting tomorrow, she continued, you will work directly with Rachel. Improve the system. Make it cleaner. Faster. Marcus nodded. But before he could leave, Angela added something unexpected. Do you know why I stepped in at the restaurant? Marcus shook his head. She looked directly at him. Because I saw how you held yourself when you were embarrassed. You didn't blame anyone. You didn't shout. You stayed calm. She paused. That tells me more than any resume. Marcus felt something shift inside him again. Confidence. As he walked out of the building that day, he noticed something. David was watching him from across the hallway. Not with doubt this time. With concern. Marcus did not know it yet, but David had his own project competing for company funding. And Marcus' idea was now becoming a threat. The test was no longer about software. It was about survival inside a room full of doubt. And the real challenge was just beginning. By the end of the week, Marcus was exhausted. He had not worked this hard in years. Every morning, he arrived before most employees. Every night, he left when the lights in the hallway were already dim. Rachel worked closely with him. At first, she treated him like an outsider. She asked sharp questions. She corrected his mistakes quickly. But slowly something changed. She saw how fast he learned. She saw how deeply he understood the daily problems of small warehouses. And most of all, she saw that he did not quit. By Thursday afternoon, the system looked different. Cleaner design, faster response, clear pricing model. It was no longer just an idea. It was a product. On Friday morning, Angela called for a final review meeting. This time, more people were in the conference room. Department heads, finance officers, even 2 board members. Marcus felt the pressure again. He remembered the restaurant. $5. That feeling of being judged. He would not feel that again. Angela opened the meeting. This week, she said, Marcus has worked with our team to refine his concept. Today, we decide if this moves forward. David sat across the table, arms crossed. Let's see, he muttered quietly. Marcus stood up. He no longer shook. He began presenting the improved system. He showed cost comparisons. He explained how small businesses could subscribe at low monthly fees. He shared real numbers Rachel helped him calculate. If we capture just 5% of small warehouses in this region, Marcus explained, this product can generate millions within 2 years. The finance officer leaned forward. Your pricing is low, she said. Margins are tight. Marcus nodded. At first, but volume grows profit. David finally spoke. And what makes you think small businesses will trust a new platform? He asked sharply. Marcus looked directly at him. Because I am one of them, he replied. The room went quiet. He continued. They're tired of being ignored. They want something made for them, not forced on them. Angela watched carefully. After almost an hour of questions, she stood. "I've heard enough," she said calmly. She looked at the board members. "This is not just a product. It is a new market for us." One of the board members, an older man with gray hair, spoke slowly. "Angela, this is risky." She nodded. "So was I." Silence filled the room. Then she made the decision. "We will launch a pilot program," she announced. "Limited rollout. 3 months. If performance meets targets, full investment follows." Marcus felt his heart pound. But Angela was not finished. She turned to him. "And Marcus will lead the pilot." The room reacted immediately. David leaned forward. "He has no corporate experience." Angela's voice remained calm, but firm. "He has lived experience. And that is exactly why this can succeed." Marcus felt the weight of the moment. This was bigger than an opportunity. This was responsibility. After the meeting ended, people slowly left the room. Some nodded at Marcus respectfully. Others avoided eye contact. David walked past him without speaking. Rachel stayed behind. "You earned that," she said quietly. Marcus gave a small smile. "It still feels unreal." Before he could say more, Angela approached him. "This is where things become harder," she said softly. "Understand," Marcus replied. She looked at him seriously. "Do you?" She handed him a folder. Inside were documents, contracts, budget outlines. "Sign this," she said, "and you officially become project director for the pilot program." Marcus stared at the papers. Project director. A week ago, he had $5. Now he was about to lead a company project. He looked up at Angela. "Why me?" he asked honestly. Angela held his gaze. "Because when you had nothing, you still showed up." Marcus picked up the pen. His hand did not shake this time. He signed. As he walked out of the building that evening, the city lights looked different. Not distant. Closer. But across the street, inside a parked car, David sat watching the building. His face was tense. He made a call. "This project cannot succeed," he said quietly. "Do whatever it takes." Marcus did not know it yet. The real fight had just begun, and someone was already planning for him to fail. The pilot program started fast. Too fast. Within 2 weeks, Marcus was leading a small team. Rachel handled the technical side. 2 junior developers supported them. Marcus focused on speaking with small warehouse owners across the city. At first, everything moved smoothly. 3 local businesses agreed to test the system. They were excited. They liked the simple design. They liked the low cost. Marcus felt proud. For the first time in months, he woke up with purpose. But on the 3rd week, problems began. The system slowed down during peak hours. Data reports were missing. One warehouse owner called Marcus directly. "Your system lost yesterday's shipment data," the man said angrily. "If this continues, we're out." Marcus rushed back to the office. Rachel was already looking at the code. "This shouldn't be happening," she said, confused. "We tested this." Marcus felt something was wrong. Not just technical wrong. Intentional wrong. Later that day, he requested access to the server logs. Strange activity appeared. Late-night changes. Edits that no one on their team approved. Marcus' heart sank. Only internal employees had that level of access. He did not want to assume, but he knew. Someone was interfering. That evening, he went to Angela's office. She listened quietly as he explained everything. "Are you certain?" she asked calmly. "I can't prove intent yet," Marcus replied. "But someone is altering the system." Angela did not look surprised. "Success creates enemies," she said softly. Marcus clenched his jaw. "What do we do?" Angela leaned back in her chair. "You fix it," she said. "That's it?" Marcus asked. She nodded. "If someone wants you to fail, the only answer is to succeed faster." Marcus left her office with new determination. The next few days were intense. He stayed overnight with Rachel and the team. They tracked every line of code. They locked system permissions. They created backups. Rachel finally looked at him one night and said, "You think it's David, don't you?" Marcus did not answer right away. "I think someone feels threatened," he said carefully. Rachel sighed. "David's project lost funding because of this pilot," she admitted quietly. "He hasn't taken it well." Marcus felt anger rise, but he pushed it down. Anger would not help. Proof would. By the end of the week, they had something solid. Security reports showed unauthorized access from David's department credentials. It was clear, but Marcus did not rush to expose him. Instead, he called a full progress review meeting. Board members, department heads, Angela. David sat confidently, unaware. Marcus presented updated results first. All 3 pilot warehouses increased efficiency by 18% in the last week, he said. The room reacted positively. He then paused. But we faced internal interference. The room went silent. David's posture stiffened. Marcus displayed the server logs on the screen. Unauthorized changes. Timestamps. User IDs. Rachel explained the technical details clearly. Angela's eyes slowly moved toward David. He tried to defend himself. I was reviewing the system for security, he said quickly. Marcus responded calmly. Without notifying the project lead and altering core functions. David had no strong answer. The board members exchanged serious looks. Angela finally spoke. This company does not sabotage innovation, she said firmly. The room felt heavy. David was escorted out of the meeting. Marcus did not feel victory. He felt relief. After the meeting ended, Angela stayed behind. You handled that well, she said. Almost reacted with anger, Marcus admitted. But you didn't, she replied. She walked closer to him. This pilot is exceeding expectations, she said. If numbers hold for another month, we move to full launch. Marcus nodded slowly. He remembered standing outside the restaurant with $5. He remembered feeling small. Now he stood in a boardroom, defending his work with proof and calm strength. As he left the building that night, he looked up at the sky. This was no longer just about money. It was about proving that character could survive pressure. But Marcus still had one more test ahead. Because success brings attention. And not all attention comes from inside the company. Outside investors were now watching. And their expectations would be even harder to meet. 3 months later, the numbers spoke louder than any opinion. The pilot program did not just survive. It exploded. Efficiency in partner warehouses increased by 23%. Operating costs dropped. Small business owners began recommending the system to others. What started with 3 warehouses grew to 15. Then 30. Investors started calling Angela's office daily. Marcus sat in the same conference room where he once felt like an outsider. But this time, the energy was different. Respect filled the room. Angela stood at the head of the table. Our pilot has officially exceeded target projections, she announced. Today, we approve full national rollout. Applause followed. Marcus did not clap. He sat still for a moment, absorbing it. $5. That number still lived in his mind. After the meeting, Angela asked him to stay. When the room cleared, she closed the door gently. You changed this company, she said. Marcus shook his head. The team did. Angela smiled slightly. Leadership always shares credit. She placed a folder on the table. Inside was a new contract. Equity partnership. Marcus read it twice to make sure he understood. You're giving me ownership? He asked quietly. I'm giving you what you earned, Angela replied. His voice felt tight. Why? Angela walked toward the window. Because this company was built by someone who once had nothing, she said softly. And I refuse to forget that. Marcus signed again. But this signature felt different from the last one. This was not survival. This was legacy. 6 months later, the same restaurant in downtown Atlanta glowed under warm lights. Marcus walked inside wearing a simple but sharp suit. Not flashy, just clean and confident. The hostess recognized him. Good evening, Mr. Johnson, she said politely. He smiled. Table for one. He chose the same seat near the window. He ordered a full meal this time, not to show off, but because he could. As he waited, someone approached his table slowly. Tiffany. She looked surprised. I didn't expect to see you here, she said. Marcus looked up calmly. Good evening. She hesitated. I heard about your company, she said. It's impressive. Marcus nodded. Thank you. There was an awkward pause. I misjudged you, she admitted quietly. Marcus studied her face. You judge my wallet, he said gently. Not my worth. She looked down. I was wrong. Marcus did not feel anger. He felt peace. That night, he said, was the best thing that happened to me. Tiffany looked confused. Because it showed me who believed in me, he explained. At that moment, another woman entered the restaurant. Angela. She walked toward Marcus' table with a small smile. Tiffany's eyes widened again. Angela greeted Marcus warmly. Ready for the investor dinner? He stood confidently. Always. Tiffany understood then. This was not luck. This was growth. Marcus turned back to her before leaving. I hope you find someone who sees you fully, he said calmly. Just like someone once saw me. He walked away with Angela. Not as a man rescued, but as a man who rose. Later that night, Marcus stood outside the restaurant again. But this time, he was not counting dollars. He was counting impact. He had already started a mentorship program for young men in his old neighborhood. He funded small local startups. He hired people who others overlooked. Because he remembered. He remembered what it felt like to stand outside a building, wondering if he belonged. Angela stood beside him. Do you ever think about that $5? She asked. Marcus smiled softly. Every day. She nodded. Good. Never forget it. Marcus looked at the city lights. Sometimes $5 is not a weakness. Sometimes it is a test of pride, of patience, of character. And when character survives the test, it builds something money alone never could. Fade out. Because this was never just a story about a blind date. It was a story about dignity. And dignity, once proven, can change everything.